TPTX Toyota ABCD mark.
When we talk about Paris, I get excited, and then I'm like, time is going too fast, and it's gonna be over, and I'll have not lived deeply enough in the process.
I get so excited about it, it's hard to not think about it. And so it is, I think, important to find time for me to think about things day to day.
I don't think about Paris unless I'm here doing these things during my day-to-day and just at practice. It's like, okay, what are we doing today? Not like, how is this gonna get me to Paris? It just adds so much stress that I put so much pressure on myself, and those are the worst practice days for me usually.
Can you first tell us how many games you've been to? Because you're in my bag at home. I have your face on my bag at home.
That's embarrassing.
No, it's amazing.
I blame it on being a Gemini because I can't. Yes, really? Oh my gosh. Girl, how have our paths not crossed in Kentucky before? A lot of people, it's kind of frustrating because a lot of people see where I am now and what I've achieved, but what they don't know is I learned about the Paralympics in 2008. I had to Google it when someone said Paralympics. I'm like, what is that? I started to make the 2008 games as a row. I did not make it. So then I moved away from home, did everything, and made it in 2012. Got recruited to try cross-country skiing, biathlon, and then broke my back rowing at Worlds in 2013. So then an opportunity of road cycling, hand cycling opened up for me. And I think you can focus on that door that only closed behind you, or you can look at this one that opened and just being fearless and walking through it, even though you don't know.
I started when I was a little bit older. I started at 6. You know, a lot of people start when they're...
Oh my gosh, and that's old. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's old for gymnastics. A lot of people start when they're really toddler. I got in there and I bumped 3 levels right away. And I remember not having friends, and they would be jealous and they would be mad that I got attention, or my coaches were coaching me more than them. And I think the community aspect of it is so important because I've learned to really cherish my relationships with my closer friends, and when I would go to developmental camps and meet all the other gymnasts, it was very nice and very refreshing to be able to relate to something with them.
I grew up fencing with my siblings. I loved that time with them. And now I'm 22 years into my sport and everyone's retiring. Now it's the loneliness is hitting on the back end. And I didn't expect that, to be honest.
So I was adopted from Ukraine and moved to Buffalo when I was almost 8. And then my mom broke the news when I was 13. I was transitioning middle school. I just had the one leg amputated. But it was tough. Creating another home, another community, another circle, and starting all over.
Because then you had to probably reshare your story 1,000 times.
I hated my story. I was still processing my story. It was hard to explain. At the same time, I was just told, oh, we can't save your right leg anymore, we're gonna have to amputate it. So I moved to a new school, a new state, and this is really before sport was really in my life. Because I never saw anyone that looked like me. So I thought, well, I know what it's like to be missing above the knee on this side, and I'm gonna be able to do nothing when I'm missing 2 above the knees. And then my biggest concern was, what am I gonna wear? Because this is not cute having things come all the way up here. That's the most important thing when you're 14.
In my younger years, I wasn't around anyone with a physical disability as well. And so I felt like I was holding this big burden where, why am I the only kid in school with 1 leg? And over time, because I was born with my disability and because I had an amazing support group, an amazing community, I felt secure enough and confident enough in myself. My mom would tell me, walk into any room, chin up, chest out, walk in like you own the place. Don't retreat to those insecurities about your disability. Eventually, I started to just accept myself and learn to appreciate that I literally couldn't change my situation. I might as well just make the most out of my life.
Where I live, there's no such thing as adaptive sports. I felt isolated because I tried to go to be part of the dance team in middle school, but I was a liability, not because I might not be able to do the dance moves, but because my leg could hurt one of the other girls. And then when I got into adaptive sports in Louisville, that's where that changed. And once you have that one person, it was my mom who believed in me, but sometimes you need more than just your parents to see that in you and have that away from home.
So I ended up having to switch to online school when I was in 4th grade. It was so lonely. I was in the gym 12 hours a day, I was the only one training by myself, so it would just be literally me and my 2 coaches. When I think about talking to younger girls, I'm so careful about all the things that I say to them because gymnastics is a very toxic environment. So when you do have a good community of people and to be that kind of outlet for the younger girls is something that's super important to me.
For kids, I feel like, especially when they're getting into sports, it's about solidifying a place that they have where they belong and they can bring out their best selves.
I noticed just living with the physical disability is pretty isolating in general. Most people with physical disabilities get stared at and pointed at and whispered about. And I know you can relate to this, but
I know what you're talking about.
But growing up, it can be very isolating. I think what's really important for the disabled community in general is having adaptive sports access. I know that I was lucky to have an amazing family, an amazing support system, and so I was able to feel that sense of community. But for people who typically walk around the world and don't feel like they belong, growing up, I didn't have somebody in the mainstream media with the physical disability. So now it's cool to be in that position and get to give back, particularly for 15% of the population that just feels isolated 24/7.
And I think I don't know if it's being a girl with a disability. I mean, if you have a bad hair day, it's the end of the world. And the one thing you don't want to do is stand out like a sore thumb. You want to fit in like everyone else. And I couldn't hide my hands or my legs. And I just felt so isolated.
Winning gold medals, breaking world records is great. But for me, I genuinely feel I was put on this earth for a specific purpose, and that is to normalize disability and be an example of what is possible as an amputee. I know the power of seeing people like yourself on the TV screen, in the mainstream media. And I mean, kids around the world are abandoned by their parents because they were born different. There's kids around the world who are left in the trash to die just because they were born missing fingers, missing limbs. This is a global issue, and I feel through the power of the Paralympics, through this proper representation, we can change the way the world sees disability. I started a nonprofit about a decade ago to provide adaptive sports opportunities in Los Angeles, and so what's cool for me is this sort of lack of adaptive sports in my area has now become something that we've created, and so now my community, in a way, is our Angel City sports community. And then when the games come to LA in 2028, that's our moment.
One of my favorite things that I heard about people when they watch me compete was all of the women's classes started filling up across the country for fencing, and people didn't even know what fencing was before. And it brings me so much joy because the discipline, the passion, the creativity, sports give you. And I've made it through 2 years of medical school. It's been very grueling and I'm barely surviving, but I did that. But now there's little kids being I'm gonna be Olympian and I'm gonna be a Dr. Olympian. And just heck yes, you explore what you want. I hope it makes them feel we don't have to be one thing.
I feel like we've all already, in our own ways, created our own legacy. For instance, I was the first Hmong American to win a gold medal, let alone make an Olympics. And I just think that the representation of it was so important because of everything that happened, changing and breaking barriers for a regular Hmong woman, getting married, having kids at 18, not doing sports, being a housewife. And my parents were amazing enough to let me do a sport and enjoy everything that I love.
I feel sometimes there's still a stigma in the US or in the world. It's you do sports through high school, middle school, college, and then kind of you were saying, okay, then get your family, or it's still a little bit that
I'm too young, I have so much life to live. I don't want to be
at
18.
Yeah, and I think it's great to set these big goals and ambitions, whether it's through sport or whatever. And right now it's not my own legacy, but I'm part of something growing together through Sisters in Sport. It's so important, and then we're having mentorships and creating empowerment and hopefully global, just sisterhood and community of young girls and women with disabilities through sport.
So you might not think you have a big legacy, but as of right now, you guys all have an amazing ripple effect.
We're pretty lucky, we all do.
I was recently diagnosed with 2 kidney diseases, and it almost took me out of gymnastics. My doctor straight up told me to my face that I probably wouldn't be able to do gymnastics ever again. I remember not being able to fit into my clothes, not taking pictures because I looked so scary. And I didn't know what was happening, and they told me that I was just allergic to pollen and dogs. So I remember going into the doctor's office and I said, "I'm sorry, I know you are a doctor, but this is not allergies." And that's when they took it more seriously. And of course, the first 30 minutes of me being at a different doctor, they're like, "Oh my gosh, like you have this disease." And then I got a biopsy, and it turned out I had another disease. I could have just been like in kidney failure before they found out. It's just like crazy to think that I'm in this position right now, almost a year later, in remission, because he literally told me, he was like, "It's impossible. Like the medicine that you're on, it's gonna make your bones too weak. You're never gonna be back the same." And I'm still kind of working on, I guess, like the mental aspect of it, because I literally didn't think I would be here, and now being here in front of you guys and like talking about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is just such an amazing opportunity, and I'm like trying to make the most of it.
It's not about achieving the impossible, it's just starting it. Because once you start it, it's no longer impossible. You have committed to it and you're halfway through and in there. And I think with Ezra, it's like our stuff is like very visible of what society might put on us of like what's impossible. And you know, actually, Suni, I had something similar in Tokyo, 100 days out, not the kidneys, but they found a tumor in my femur, and it crushed me. And I'll never forget, like on the 100 days out celebrating, and I'm like on the hospital bed crying, posting, "I'm so excited for 100 days out," not even knowing if I'm gonna go to the games, and it seems impossible getting to that start line. It's just a mindset. You just have to start, and that's all you have to do.
Everything's impossible until it's done. I like to set the most ambitious, unrealistic, statistically unlikely goal and then go after it. And the only way you go after it is by starting, right? Taking that first step, starting your impossible.
I did Tokyo and Beijing at a COVID Games, and there was no family, no fans. Well, as a Paralympic athlete, it actually wasn't different from me, because we never have.
I'm fencing, we don't fans either, it's fine.
But like, I'm just so excited leading into Paris of having your family there and having your friends there. And that's like, I think the biggest difference from the past games to this games coming up. And regardless of the finish line, before you even know what your result is, it's just looking up and seeing your parents and your family there.
Definitely. I mean, when I was competing, I felt like it just like was like frozen, like the world was like frozen. And it's like weird because like I'm competing, but it doesn't feel like anybody's watching me. And I forgot that like the Olympics are on TV. And then you realize like, oh yeah, the time changed. Like it's like 3 a.m. at home. I'm like, nobody's watching.
I'm excited because I know you guys feel the same, but there's a lot of people that have invested in all of us. And one of my biggest dreams is to pay back the people who have invested in me. And winning gold in front of them in Paris, there's no better way to pay them all back.
I feel like it's not about the medal, it's that moment where obviously you want to be in the middle, but if you're on one of the sides, you know, it's great still because you're thanking the people that got you there. And it's a bittersweet feeling sometimes because I'm there, you're the only one there as an athlete, and the world doesn't get to see the village behind you, that community behind you that helped you stand there on top.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to having my friends and my family there, but I'm also looking forward to being able to watch you guys. I mean, like just having this conversation is like, you guys are seriously inspiring me. Every single time you guys say something, I'm learning something. And it's making me so excited, and like, I'm looking forward to watching because now I can look forward to having people that I can support.
Now it's like, okay, now I know you outside of just your like amazing accomplishments, but as humans, and now like we're connected in that.
I don't get to sit down like this with too many Olympians or Paralympians and have this deep of a
real
conversation.
Yeah, really, yeah.
None of us knew what we were signing up for.
I know!
We were thinking in the car, I'm like, how awkward do you think this is gonna be? I'm like, we don't know each other.
But yeah, I'm so grateful I got to meet all of you guys.
Me too.